When I was 6 years old, I scalded my face with boiling water after a fall, disfiguring myself. From then on, my parents learned their lesson and never allowed my sister to do any household chores. They always praised her beauty and charm in front of others, while showing disdain for my appearance. At the age of 10, when I had a high fever, they didn't take it seriously until it caused brain damage that left me less intelligent. Consequently, they took great care with my sister, rushing her to the hospital at the slightest cough. It seems I was like a trial and error experiment for them. They corrected their mistakes with me in how they raised my sister. I am ugly, silent, foolish, and unpopular, whereas my sister is beautiful, sweet-talking, smart, and loved by everyone. After being diagnosed with depression, I gathered the courage to express my feelings to them, only to be harshly scolded by my mother, who accused me of being mentally ill and petty, and cruelly suggested that if I was capable, I should just die. After my sister pushed me off a high building, they discovered by a strange twist of fate that she was not biologically related to either of them. I am, in fact, their only biological daughter. When my father's affair came to light, my parents ended up in court over a divorce. The judge asked them to each take custody of one child. Without hesitation, both chose my sister. The judge, finding the situation difficult, asked my sister to choose a parent. Dressed in a chic princess dress, she was flanked by both parents. My father promised her a better life, tempting her with a new tablet. My mother, noticing she was cold, wrapped her in a scarf and pleaded with her to choose her, hinting at the complications of having a stepmother in the future. This caused another argument between them. Meanwhile, I stood in a corner, ignored and feeling awkward, quietly zipping up my thin white school uniform as the cold wind pierced through it. The courtroom erupted into chaos until the judge, unable to stand it, asked if neither parent was willing to take the older daughter. The room fell eerily silent. My parents, embarrassed and unwilling to speak, hesitated, as they had always pretended to treat us equally but clearly did not want to take responsibility for me. Everyone's gaze turned towards me, making me too embarrassed to look up, trying to hide the ugly scars on my face. As if passing off a hot potato, my sister reluctantly handed the decision to me, putting me in the awkward position of offending one of them. You choose first, sister, encouraged by the judge. Young lady, who do you want to live with? My parents watched nervously, hoping not to be chosen. Unable to retreat into my shell of silence any longer, I hesitated, then whispered, can I choose to go to an orphanage? I couldn't choose who my parents were, but I wanted to choose not to have them. I would rather be an orphan than live like an experiment. When I was 1 year old, my parents were busy starting a business and sent me back to my grandmother's house. It wasn't until 4 years later, when my sister learned to speak, that they brought me back. Growing up away from my parents made it difficult for me to develop close relationships, as I seemed naturally cold and distant. They always complained that I wasn't affectionate towards them, so with the birth of my sister, they raised her according to the book, actively taking care of her and reaping the rewards of a lively, affectionate young daughter. When I was 6, my mother was busy feeding my sister and commanded me to pour hot water for them. I was short, standing on a small stool to reach the kettle. I accidentally fell, scalding my face with hot water and leaving large, ugly scars. At such a young age, my appearance was already ruined. Learning from this, my parents never let my younger sister do any household chores. She grew up pampered, her hands never even touching water, and she turned out to be beautiful and adorable. My parents would proudly show her off to everyone. When others asked about me, their eldest daughter, they would frown as if remembering a stain on their lives. They disliked how the scars had marred my looks and would jokingly say, "Huh, Susan's face is so scary. Let's not upset everyone by mentioning her." No one remembered that before I was 6, I was an exceptionally beautiful little girl. At the age of 10, I washed dishes and clothes in cold water during winter, caught a cold, and developed a high fever at night. Crying in discomfort, I called for my mom, annoyed for being woken up. My parents didn't take it seriously and simply gave me some fever medicine before going back to sleep. Unexpectedly, I fevered throughout the night, and by the time they realized the severity and took me to the hospital the next day, it was too late. The doctor said the fever had damaged my brain, and I might become less intelligent. Filled with regret, my parents learned their lesson, so, every time my sister coughed, they would panic, rushing her to the hospital even in the middle of the night for peace of mind. Whenever she was sick, they took turns caring for her attentively. Sadly, I never had a fever again and never experienced that kind of careful attention. In junior high, due to my slower learning abilities, I struggled to keep up with school and consistently ranked at the bottom. The teachers suggested that my parents hire a tutor or spend time helping me study, but at that time, their business was booming. They had neither the money to hire a tutor for me nor the time to help with my homework. They believed that a truly capable person could excel without external help and that my poor performance was due to my lack of effort. My grades remained poor, and unsurprisingly, I ended up in the worst high school. They were embarrassed and finally realized that a child does not become excellent out of nowhere. All their hopes were then placed on my sister, as their business stabilized and prospered. They had the means to hire excellent tutors for her and took time every day to oversee her studies. My sister achieved outstanding results and was admitted to the best high school in our city. They were so pleased that they threw several banquet tables at a 5-star hotel to celebrate, deliberately not telling me. At that time, I was boarding at school, still buried in my studies, trying to catch up, being less intelligent. I always had to put in more effort than others to achieve the same results. My cousin, who attended the same school, saw me buying bread for dinner and thought my parents hadn't had the chance to pick me up for the family banquet, so her parents kindly offered to take me along. So there I was, holding my bread, confusedly brought to the hotel. As I entered, I saw my parents proudly introducing my sister in the crowd. Seeing me, their faces fell, and under their gaze, holding a cheap plastic bag of bread, I suddenly felt out of place. Later, I learned that they had specifically not told me to come, fearing others would know they had another daughter who was both ugly and unintelligent. Feeling it would be embarrassing, they had forgotten that before my brain was damaged, I had always been the top student in my school. In high school, my teeth became more and more protruding. Relatives always advised them to take me to see a dentist. After much persuasion, they finally made time for it. The dentist said I had a skeletal overbite, a congenital issue due to genetics, and suggested orthognathic surgery. The sooner the better, considering I had just started my senior year. My parents said I should save up and pay for the surgery myself after starting college. Meanwhile, learning from their past mistakes, they had my sister's teeth corrected early on and even got her orthokeratology for her myopia. Everyone who met her afterwards mistakenly thought she was a natural beauty, envying her flawless skin. Now I'm 18, my sister is 16. I'm in my final year of high school, and she's in her freshman year. I'm unattractive, quiet, and not very bright, which makes me unpopular. My sister is beautiful, sweet-talking, smart, and adored by everyone. I feel like a trial run, where all the mistakes made with me were corrected in her. I have both parents, and I'm nearly 18, so of course, I can't go to an orphanage. In the end, it was my grandmother who felt sorry for me. She said, "If none of you want Susan, this old lady will take her. Just don't come back later regretting handing her over to me." My grandmother didn't understand any legal procedures. She only knew how to love her granddaughter. She took me away right then, not caring about the looks on everyone else's faces. What happened after that, I do not know. I grew up with my grandmother, living in her old house. Even though it was humble, it inexplicably gave me a sense of peace and comfort. Half a month flew by, and as college entrance exams approached, I stayed at school, only going home once every 2 or 3 weeks. One day, it started raining heavily. As I walked toward the bus station with my umbrella, someone blocked my way. Seeing me, my mother became furious. "Susan, it's raining and your sister is just across at her school without an umbrella. How could you, as her older sister, not think to bring her one?" My dad was parked at the school gate, and my mom was in the passenger seat. Clearly, neither had brought an umbrella, and they couldn't drive into the school, so they were waiting for Bella, who also hadn't brought an umbrella. She wanted me to give my umbrella to Bella. I didn't ask why they were both there to pick her up. I just politely refused. "But I only have one umbrella. If I give my umbrella to Bella, what about me? I don't have anyone to pick me up by car." My mom got even angrier, got out of the car, and in front of the teachers and students, she slapped the back of my head, causing me to stumble awkwardly. She scolded me loudly. "Is it just an umbrella? You're the older sister. You should be the one to give it to your younger sister. What, would you be happy if she caught a cold from the rain?" Everyone around looked at me, crushing my self-esteem. I kept my head down and was silent for a long time. but still softly refused. But if I get wet, I could catch a cold too. Feeling defied and her authority as a parent challenged, she hit me again, snatched my umbrella, and muttered, "I really raised an ingrate." She took the umbrella intending to fetch my sister. I watched her, then suddenly grabbed the umbrella back, threw it to the ground, and stomped on it, tearing off the canopy to cover my backpack. Soaked in the rain, I walked forward step by step, ignoring her loud curses behind me. The cold rain hit my face, soaking me through in no time. When I reached the bus station, people looked at me strangely. On the bus, everyone kept their distance. Wary of getting wet, a girl about Bella's age handed me a packet of tissues. "Miss, wipe off the rain, you could easily catch a cold." It was as if a valve had opened. People around began showing concern, and someone even handed me a hand warmer. My face remained expressionless, but suddenly I couldn't hold back anymore, and a few tears squeezed out bitterly. I carefully hid them under the guise of wiping off the rain, softly. I thanked each person. "Thank you." It's truly ironic how one's own parents can seem less caring than strangers. The next day, Bella came to my school with our parents, specifically to apologize. My mother's expression was stern as she said, "Susan, I was too hasty yesterday, don't take it to heart." Her apology sounded more like a command. Bella, holding my hand and acting coquettishly, said, "Sister, Mom has apologized. Why don't you come back home to stay?" Her enthusiasm was somewhat abnormal, and I wondered what her real intention was. "What? I thought our home was broken," I said. Only then did the three of them seem to realize that they had not explained the situation to me. That day, when they had argued about divorce, it escalated until Bella cried. Seeing her cry, they both felt pity and considered her age and the impact their divorce might have on her studies as a high school student. So, they put the divorce on hold. The three of them seemed happier without me, and no one even bothered to inform me, nor did anyone consider how their divorce might affect me, especially since I was also in my final year of high school. Looking at the three of them, I replied coldly, "I'm sorry, but I'm not coming back." I walked away from them. Behind me, my father roared, "Susan, you're really ungrateful. We're better off without you. Just the sight of you is sickening." I paused imperceptibly, heart aching from the harsh words of my own family. But I still didn't hesitate to distance myself from them. I thought I could avoid them and be at peace. But just a few days later, I had no choice but to seek their help. My grandmother, who had chronic illnesses, fell ill due to the cold weather. Alone, with neither money nor time, I had to ask them for help. Approaching the house I had left nearly a month ago, I heard laughter and merriment inside. Peering through the crack in the door, I saw a warmly decorated room, festive and cheerful, with a group of people singing a birthday song to Bella. She wore a birthday crown, looking like a little princess, her smile bright and beautiful. I stood in the biting cold wind for a long time. I've been busy taking care of my grandmother these past few days, so much so that I completely forgot today is Bella's birthday. My birthday is just over half a month before my sister's. In previous years, we would celebrate our birthdays together. This year, no one remembered my birthday. It coincided with the time when my parents were preparing for their divorce, and I was just a few days shy of turning 18, which meant a decision had to be made about who would take care of me. On my birthday, I was still at school. After classes, my grandmother gave me some boiled eggs. That was how I spent my one and only 18th birthday. I've never been enthusiastic about birthdays. Being forced to share a birthday cake with my sister every year didn't bring me joy, only a sense of annoyance from the greasy cream. The most memorable birthday was when I was in elementary school. It was yet another shared celebration with my sister. That year, a friend of my dad's gave us a box of expensive imported chocolates, beautifully packaged. My mom said, "Your sister is still young. You should let her have them." She then gave the entire box to my sister, and I didn't receive any gifts at all. I was envious and longing, yet I didn't dare to speak out. I knew complaining would only result in being scolded for being greedy. So, I saved up money for a long time and bought myself just one chocolate. Just one. I bought it but couldn't bring myself to eat it. I just looked at it occasionally. My sister saw it one day and started crying, making a fuss and complaining to our parents that I had stolen her chocolate. I thought I could clear up the misunderstanding by explaining that I had bought it myself and hadn't taken it from her box. Without listening, my mom slapped me and said, "Lying so young, what will you become when you grow up? If it wasn't you taking your sister's chocolates, then was she framing you, with a slap mark on my face, at a very young age. I learned to treat everything and everyone with indifference. If you don't believe me, I can take you to the store. I took them to the candy store, where the shopkeeper remembered me well because I had paid with a pile of small bills for one expensive candy. She had asked why I didn't bring my parents. The shopkeeper vouched for me, and my parents finally realized their mistake. However, they couldn't lower themselves to apologize and hurriedly ushered me out, blaming me. You've made us lose face over just a piece of candy. How petty. Children don't have so many twists and turns. Children don't understand losing face. They just know what others have, and what they don't. If I don't have it, then I'll save money and buy it myself. Why am I still blamed for that? Eventually, I ate the chocolate. If I didn't, it would have melted. I imagined it would be sweet, but when I tasted it, it was bitter. Chocolate is bitter, cream is sweet, bitterness brings sorrow, sweetness brings irritation. I never look forward to my birthday. Nor do I mention it to others. I deliberately try to forget it because telling others about my birthday, when no one celebrates it or wishes me happiness, makes me feel extremely awkward and embarrassed. As I was about to enter the house after everyone had left, I overheard Bella complaining to our mom inside. Mom, why haven't you coaxed sister back yet? It must be because you didn't apologize sincerely last time, she said. With sister not around, there's no one to help me cook or clean up. Your cooking is awful, and you don't clean as well as she does. I stopped in my tracks. Apparently, their unusual warmth that day was just an attempt to coax me back to be their maid. I barged through the door, interrupting them, without any preamble. I addressed my father directly. Grandma is sick and needs to be hospitalized. Bella seemed a bit embarrassed, probably worried I had overheard her earlier words. However, her embarrassment was fleeting. She didn't really take me seriously and had the audacity to cling to me and act coquettishly. Sis, since Grandma is sick, why don't you come stay with us? She showed no concern for our grandmother's illness. Her only worry was whether she would have someone to look after her. She's been spoiled into being selfish and self-centered. I shook off her hand and repeated firmly, Dad, Grandma is sick and needs to be hospitalized. You need to take her. I'm an adult now. They are no longer legally obligated to support me, nor do I need their guardianship. Naturally, I wasn't going to serve the three of them anymore. No matter what they said, I stayed silent, unyielding, and kept to myself. It wasn't until Dad had completed the hospital admission procedures, and none of them wanted to stay with Grandma, that I asked my teacher for leave and decided to stay by her bedside. They always call me ungrateful, but in truth, they are the ones lacking conscience. I attended classes in the daytime and squeezed in time to stay with Grandma in the hospital at night, studying on a cramped stool. In just a few days, I had lost a lot of weight. A nurse noticed and lent me her lipstick. Little sister, put some lipstick on to moisturize your lips. They are all chapped. I thanked her and obediently applied the colored lipstick, which instantly made me look healthier. Grandma was happy to see me looking energetic when I entered the room. But she still reminded me, Susan, right now, your studies and rest are most important. You don't have to stay with me all the time. Okay, I readily agreed, but with no one else to care for her, I had to stay by her side. Those two were repeatedly urged before they visited once, and they were clearly upset about paying the hospital fees. When my mother saw me, she immediately vented her frustration about the expenses on me, grabbed my face, and harshly rubbed my lips. Her shrill voice piercing my ears, oblivious to the stares of others around. Susan, your father and I are exhausted from dealing with your grandma's illness, and your sister is so upset she can't even eat, and here you are, finding time to wear makeup and dress up. She rubbed my lips so hard that they started bleeding, and the sight of blood on her hand made her push me away disgustedly. She shouted, What kind of young lady are you, getting up to no good so early? Do you not want to study anymore? Do you want to become a prostitute? If you don't want to study, then drop out. You're already 18, your father and I are not obligated to support you anymore. Other daughters can buy their parents and siblings houses and cars. Why can't you? I backed into the cold wall, my lips bleeding and a numb, thick pain spreading across my heart. I looked up at her, my eyes stinging, but I couldn't cry. I lowered my head, laughed, and said, I'm really unlucky to have parents like you. As I laughed, a single tear fell to the ground, unseen by anyone. How can a mother harbor such malicious and vile thoughts about her own daughter, humiliating her in public? Once a child turns 18, these parents refuse to spend another dime on her, fantasizing about being honored as if a child turning 18 suddenly becomes a millionaire picking up money from the streets. When watering, they were stingy and meticulous. Yet they blamed their child for not growing into a towering tree. I remained silent, just quietly watching her. Several medical staff heard the noise and came over to pull my mother away and persuaded both parties to leave. After learning the whole story, the nurse took out antiseptic wipes to clean the blood from the corner of my mouth. Seeing my quiet demeanor, she looked at me with sympathy and apologized. "I'm sorry, little sister. I didn't expect your mother to misunderstand you like this. It's my fault." I gently shook my head. "It's not your fault," I replied calmly, pressing the tissue against the wound. "It's not your fault, nor is it mine, it's theirs. They are the ones with malicious intentions and corrupted morals, judging others by themselves." The nurse hesitated for a long time before finally saying, "Little sister, you seem a bit off. You're emaciated, anorexic, suffering from insomnia. It could be a psychological condition. Our hospital has top-tier psychologists. Maybe you should get checked out." She handed me a business card. I paused for a moment, took it, and held it in my palm. "Thank you, sister. I've always been one to take advice." I took some time off over the weekend to visit the building next door for a consultation, underwent a series of tests, and was diagnosed with severe depression. I squatted helplessly in the corner, holding the report, suddenly feeling very lost. Depression, that must be an expensive illness, right? Ordinary psychological counseling costs hundreds per hour. I couldn't afford this illness. I didn't tell my grandmother about it. Fortunately, the school offered some free psychological counseling, so I went to see the school doctor, who gently and patiently helped me identify the cause. There wasn't much to find. Just a pair of distressing parents and a sister who benefited from the situation. Many psychological issues stem from one's family of origin. The doctor encouraged me to communicate more with my parents. After hesitating for a long time, I finally went back once, mustered the courage, and tried to show them the report and talk to them. As a child, when I felt extremely aggrieved, I would always cry secretly under the covers at night, fantasizing about ending it all. Surely then my parents would regret their actions. Of course, it was just a fantasy. Life is too precious. Now, ironically, I was ill. How would they react this time? Would they regret it? Would they care for me like they did my sick sister? It felt as if my soul was split in two. One half was the 18-year-old Susan, cold and sarcastic, expecting nothing from anyone. The other half was the young Susan, yearning to be cherished, maybe when I'm 80, deep inside. There will still be a pitiful child starved of love. My parents impatiently flipped through the report, their expressions darkening. My father slammed the report on the table and asked sternly, "Why on earth would you get such an illness?" I numbly replied. The doctor identified the cause as parental favoritism towards my sister. My mother's tone suddenly rose, angrily slamming the table. "Are you blaming us?" Then she began to list all the hardships of raising children and her efforts for me, asserting confidently, "Whatever your sister has, you have too. You both celebrate birthdays. You could also study with her tutor. What more could you possibly want?" My father chimed in, "Look around for miles. Find another family that treats their children as equally as ours. You're just not as good as your sister. And now you blame us for favoritism, right? It's laughable how they always claim to be fair and impartial. When will they ever admit their bias?" I numbly recall those trivial details. I've always had to do various chores since I was little, while my sister never had to. When my hair got long as a child, it was chopped off because you couldn't be bothered to tie it up for me. Meanwhile, my sister had beautiful long hair that was carefully braided. Every time I came home at noon, I could only scrape some leftover rice and cold dishes for myself. But a warm feast awaited her whenever she returned. When I made a mistake, you would scold or beat me. When my sister made a mistake, you blamed and punished me too, saying I hadn't supervised her properly. Recalling an old incident, my numb heart felt a sting, and the sorrow in my limbs sharpened instantly, tormenting my nerves. I looked at them. When we were children, you took us out and bought a family meal that included only one child. Any more would cost extra. To save that little bit of money, you left me outside the restaurant and went in to eat with my sister. There I was, a little child, waiting alone at the door, amidst the bustling crowd, nearly getting kidnapped. If that's not favoritism, then what is? I don't understand how parents can be so cruel. I'm grateful I had a clear-headed grandmother, who prevented me from growing up desperate for love and becoming easy to manipulate, or performing foolish filial piety just to gain your attention. After I finished, they were unusually silent, perhaps unable to refute me any further, despite their boasts of fairness. After a while, my father exploded in anger. He turned red and roared at me. I must be blind to have raised such a petty, selfish ingrate. My mother sneered. Your sister is younger, what's wrong with you? As the older sister, giving in a bit, you're narrow-minded and sick in the head. If you go around saying that, people might think we've mistreated you. Stop making unreasonable fuss here. If you have the guts, just go die. These translations aim to capture the emotional weight and context of the original text rather than providing a word-for-word translation. I watched them in disbelief. My mother, my own birth mother, cursing me and telling me to go die. I don't understand. I really don't understand why some parents can be so cruel. The biggest lie society ever taught me was that a father's love is as stable as a mountain and a mother's love is selfless. Children are born loving their parents, but some parents are selfish, manipulative, oppressive, and resentful of others' success. I returned to the hospital feeling even sicker, as if something was stirring in my mind, making me very uncomfortable. Yet, I still managed to smile, holding the porridge I was bringing to share a made-up amusing story with my grandmother. My grandmother lay motionless on the hospital bed, surrounded by people. The doctor hurriedly informed me that she had a sudden emergency and needed immediate rescue. My parents had been notified and were on their way. The thermos slipped from my hand and spilled all over the floor. After a moment of shock, my smile faded. I quickly apologized, cleaned up the floor, and sat on a bench, not daring to look at my grandmother again. When my parents arrived, the doctor asked them to sign and pay for a surgery that was risky and would take a long time. I waited in a corner, the courage to face the outcome slowly draining away. I overheard my parents growing impatient and starting to talk irritably about me. My mom said, "I told you Susan might have been switched at birth. I had Bella pull some of her hair to get a DNA test done. We should get the results today." My dad agreed. Exactly, our family doesn't carry genes from mental illness. Hidden by a large potted plant in the corner, they didn't notice me eavesdropping as they freely criticized me. I was heartbroken. I wanted to say, it's just depression, not madness. I was anxious, sensing that my grandmother might not make it. I wanted to cry, but the tears were stuck in my eyes. My head felt increasingly terrible. I even wished I wasn't their biological child. I had secretly done a paternity test before, unfortunately confirming I really was their daughter. I didn't want to stay there anymore, so I walked away. Walking aimlessly, I found myself on the rooftop of a building, standing in the chilly breeze of the setting sun. My mind was a mess, thinking one moment about my mother telling me to go die, and the next about my critically ill grandmother. The world seemed so unfair. The malicious often find happiness, while the kind face suffering. Little girl, don't jump, don't jump. A concerned stranger noticed me and rushed over, nervously reaching out to stop me. I paused, wanting to say I was just up there to clear my head. The building wasn't very high, and there were people passing below. If I really were to consider jumping, I'd find a more secluded and higher place, to avoid causing too much trouble for others. The man earnestly tried to persuade me. Young lady, what hurdle can't you overcome at your age? Is it a broken heart, or bad grades? He tried to console me. When you're unhappy, think of your family. Your parents. Stop, I interrupted him. I don't want to hear any of this. I just want to take in the open scenery. I sighed. Some kind-hearted person nearby had fetched Bella to console me. She rushed over and, seeing me standing in a dangerous spot, started crying. Sister, please don't think about doing anything rash. I looked at her, speechless for a long moment. My mind gradually cleared, the discomfort subsiding, and my gaze steadied, catching a glimpse of the brilliant clouds and the setting sun in my peripheral vision. I wasn't going to seek death. If I died, they wouldn't be sad. Only the people who truly cared about me would be. Why should I hurt myself over the mistakes of despicable people? I should live longer than any of them, live better than them, and stay away from those who depress me. As more people gathered, I didn't want to prolong the drama. Just as I was about to leave, Bella, thinking she was helping, advised. Sister, Grandma's surgery was successful. Don't believe me? Check the family group chat. She cautiously walked over and showed me her phone. Indeed, there was a message announcing the successful surgery. Then, underneath that, My mom had posted a paternity test result with a note. Turns out Susan really isn't our biological daughter. We still don't know why. No wonder she turned out to be so ungrateful. At Bella, baby. Mom only has you as her darling daughter now. And then she removed me from the group, probably blocked me too. Bella seemed unaware of the bombshell message below as she gently grabbed my hand. Sister, Grandma is waiting for you, let's go back. She was crying and tried to pull me along, but suddenly, her hand pushed me, and I fell over the edge. I jumped from the high building. I didn't die, luckily. There was a terrace halfway down the building. Unluckily, I landed on someone, cushioning my fall. He took most of the impact and ended up being rushed to the ambulance, while I ended up with just a few bandages around my head, feeling extremely guilty. I followed to the hospital. Once the guy was settled in a bed with his bandages done, I found a chance to apologize. I'm so sorry. I'll find a way to cover your medical bills. Lucas, wrapped up like a mummy with only his face visible, waved his hand after a long pause, wincing in pain, then pathetically blinked at me. Don't worry about it. Just get me a cup of hot water. As I gave him water, he comfortably squinted his eyes, lay back down, and remarked, Listen, it sounds like there's an argument outside. He and my grandmother were in the same hospital. Not far from here was my grandmother's room, which I hadn't had a chance to visit yet. Looking outside, my sister, Bella, anxiously ran back to tell our parents about my jump. They didn't care, cursing dismissively, better off dead. Hearing this, my grandmother, fresh from surgery, grabbed her walking stick and started chasing after them. This was what a nearby nurse told me. Bella hadn't yet answered for pushing me earlier. Had I not secretly done a paternity test myself previously, I might have believed I wasn't my parents' biological daughter. They had slipped up before, suggesting Bella grab some of my hair for the test, but she never approached me. Perhaps she thought it was unnecessary, took some of her own hair instead, and got caught off guard when the results showed she wasn't their biological daughter. Panicking over being found out, pretending to persuade me, they actually pushed me off a high building. At such a young age, she harbored malicious thoughts. Eventually, Grandma got tired and was helped back to her bed. She had been quite harsh. My father's face was swollen and bruised, comically so, and my mother's hair was a mess, since they had gradually become wealthy. It had been a long time since they'd found themselves in such a disheveled state, yet, this was just the appetizer. I went back and retrieved the paternity test and the surveillance footage from my room. Ever since I was wrongfully accused of stealing my sister's chocolate as a child, I saved up some money and installed a camera in my room to avoid being falsely accused again. Unexpectedly, I captured footage of Bella wandering around my room one day. I wasn't there. She didn't wait for me and, growing impatient, she pulled out a few strands of her own hair. I had seen this footage before and was puzzled about her actions. I handed these materials over to them. My father was shocked after watching, and my mother snatched them, asking, What's going on? After watching, she lost her composure and grabbed Bella. Bella, what is this all about? Everyone was in chaos. My father was particularly agitated. Have I really been raising someone else's child for over a decade? He was overly excited, and my mother, sensing something was wrong, accused him of knowing something. Then, they started arguing again. During the argument, my father dropped a bombshell. So that's how it is. It turned out Bella was the child of a woman my father had an affair with. He conspired with his mistress to swap my real sister with the mistress's daughter, because our family was better off, perhaps as retribution. The mistress died in a car accident not long after. Tragically, along with the baby who shared my blood. My father had always known that Bella was not my mother's biological daughter, but no matter which woman bore her, she was his offspring, so he felt no loss. He was confused by the paternity test results for a long time, thinking there had been a mix-up. Turns out, the sample was Bella's. Meaning, she wasn't his biological daughter either, but actually the child of the mistress and her former husband. My father had unknowingly raised another man's child. My mother had doted on the mistress's daughter for over a decade, and their only biological daughter, me, was treated like a flawed experiment. Not long ago, they even berated me to death for my severe depression. Just now, Bella had told them, Susan really jumped off the building. My mother was stunned for a long time. After digesting the truth, she suddenly burst into tears. My Susan, she glared at Bella hatefully and rushed to pull her hair. My own daughter is dead. why should a wretched woman's child like you still be standing here? Bella cried pitifully, scared and pleading with my father for help. Daddy, save me. Unlike usual, my father didn't pamper or protect her. He slapped her, knocking her to the ground, and furiously kicked her, yelling, "It's all your fault." How could things have turned out like this? Both of them uncharacteristically attacked Bella, beating and kicking her, barely restrained by others while continuing to curse and cry. Regardless of Bella's identity, assaulting someone is definitely wrong, and the police soon arrived to take them away. As they left, I finally stepped out. I watched the middle-aged couple coldly. "Stop crying. She's not dead. Anyone would think you cared about this daughter from the way you wail without even understanding what's going on with her." How unlucky. Lucas, determined despite his disabilities, leaned on his crutch near the doorway, dropping a few words that successfully silenced them. Their surprise at seeing me was immense. My mom cautiously said, "Susan, I'm glad you're okay." I stepped forward and pressed hard on the spot where Bella had scratched her lip, causing it to bleed profusely. I disdainfully wiped the blood on her clothes. "Does it hurt?" I asked. My mom, puzzled, hesitated before nodding tentatively. I laughed mockingly. "When you told me to die, my whole body hurt like this, and my heart hurt countless times more." Just one sentence. In an instant, my parents' faces turned deathly pale. They were detained for a few days. The drama within our family was so intense that it became the talk of the town. Bella, the homewrecker and the unwanted third child, immediately fell from her status as the beloved princess at school to being scorned as the daughter of the other woman. My mom waited for me at the school gate, holding up her phone to my face, trying to please me. "Susan, look, I've completely deleted that wretch, and I've also removed her from the family group chat. In a few days, I'll send her back to her gambler father." "Susan, would you accept Mom's friend request please?" She even begged me humbly. Just hoping I would accept her friend request. I had already blocked both of them. I looked at her and said calmly, "Any trace of you in my social circle makes me feel sick." My mom stood there as if struck by lightning. My dad tried to bribe me with a big box of expensive chocolates, the kind I never had as a child. As if offering a treasure, I threw them all in the trash right in front of him. Watching his face shift from hopeful to ashen, expressionless, I said, "I know you want to make amends. But some things just aren't the same anymore once their time has passed. My childhood won't brighten up because of these, and some mistakes can never be fully rectified." They still didn't give up, full of guilt with no outlet, insisting on compensating me in various ways. This belated parental love was nothing but rotten garbage, so disgusting it made me want to vomit. The previously shelved divorce proceedings were set in motion again, both parents pulling out all the stops to win my favor. Hoping I would choose one of them, it was the same courtroom, but this time, the object of their contention was me. The judge asked whom I chose, and I repeated my stance. "I don't want either of them. I was already of age, and they couldn't force me anymore." On a rainy day after school, as soon as I stepped out of the gate, I saw two cars at the door. Both my mom and dad rushed to greet me, each eager to take me home. My dad said, "Susan, it's pouring, let me take you home." My mom said, "Susan, let Mom drive you." I stepped back to avoid them, with a downturned mouth and a look of "keep away" in my eyes. The wariness visible made them flustered and remorseful, remembering how they once took my umbrella to pick up Bella, now deeply regretting it. My mom's hand trembled under the weight of the umbrella she held, as if it were immensely heavy. Just then, my teacher passed by, frowned upon seeing them, and shielded me, chiding, "As parents, you should at least be fair. Not exploit one child over another. Just because she's the eldest doesn't mean she should be deprived of her rights as a child." The teacher was behind on the latest family drama, thinking they were just trying to take my umbrella from my sister like last time. That previous time, I had torn my own umbrella and endured the rain, catching a cold that scared him terribly during class. My parents stood there awkwardly. I gently reassured the teacher. This time, they came to bring me an umbrella. The teacher left, clearly uneasy. The people around them cast glances back and forth, sizing them up from head to toe, as they stood in the center of everyone's attention, enduring the scrutiny. After suffering for a while, I took the umbrella from my mother's hand and casually handed it to a classmate nearby who didn't have one, and then walked away without hesitation. A car stopped in front of me, and Lucas, sitting in the back seat, poked his head out, his eyebrows raised suggestively. "Need a ride, bro?" "Sure," I got into Lucas's car, leaving those two behind. As we drove away, I caught a glimpse of their dismayed faces and Bella's envious and malicious gaze from a distant corner. No matter how they tried to make amends, it was futile. Once, my father even knelt down right in front of me. I quickly hid behind my grandmother. Grandma grabbed her new walking stick and hit him twice on the forehead, saying, "I told you before. Don't come regretting and then ask this old woman for help." My father stood up awkwardly while my mother stood by helplessly and asked, "Susan, what do we need to do for you to forgive your mother?" I said, "Do you even remember that I have severe depression? Staying away from you helps me recover faster." My father covered his bruised forehead, and my mother even started crying. "Susan, let mom take you to treatment. I will give you lots of love." At their most guilty, I stated, "I don't need you, I just need money, a lot of it, at least 2 apartments." They struggled but agreed. I didn't choose either parent, I chose the apartments, one for grandma, one to sell for cash, to get treatment, orthodontics, and cosmetic surgery. I didn't want more. I didn't want to owe them anything and then be coerced into caring for them in their old age. With that money, I first hired a lawyer, gathered evidence, and prepared the materials. I couldn't let Bella get away with pushing me down the stairs. Her actions were covert at the time. Bystanders thought she was trying to mediate, but instead, I ended up jumping. However, a distant security camera faithfully recorded her deceitful maneuvers. One day, when no one else was around, Bella confronted me, glaring hatefully, "Susan, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you, Mom and Dad wouldn't despise me, and I wouldn't have ended up with that abusive gambler." I mocked her. "You've played the cuckoo in the nest for so long, you actually think it all belongs to you." Used to being privileged, she couldn't stand not being pampered for even a moment. Bella choked, then sneered, and shouted loudly, "Sister, don't hit me, I know I was wrong." This attracted a crowd. She switched her demeanor quickly, now appearing pitifully, crying, "Sister, I know I've wronged you. But I was just a baby when I was switched to your family. I didn't choose this. Why would you lead bullying against me at school?" First, she portrayed herself as innocent, then labeled me as a school bully. She stretched out her arm, revealing the bruises underneath. Sure enough, the whispering began, and the public sentiment started to shift, seeing her as innocent and me as cruel. She was only 16 years old. "You really know how to play games with people, just like a mistress's daughter would." I pulled out my phone, which was recording all along, and played back her recent words. Watching her and the faces around her change, I smiled. "First, the daughter of a mistress has no right to claim innocence. Besides, the injuries you have are from your father, which have nothing to do with me. Second, you're not innocent. Have you already forgotten how you pushed me down the stairs?" The revelation shocked the crowd. Just then, coincidentally, the police arrived and took Bella away in front of everyone. Bella, in disbelief, stared at me, speechless. Bella was imprisoned for attempted assault and subsequently expelled from school. My parents lost many partners due to family discord, and their divorce proceedings strained their finances, leading to a decline in their business and eventual bankruptcy. They spent their time avoiding debt collectors, which luckily meant they left me alone. I was focused on preparing for my college entrance exams. Fortunately, my hard work paid off, and I performed exceptionally well, securing admission into a decent university. During college, I transformed myself through cosmetic surgery and revamped my appearance. Even though I wasn't the brightest, I was willing to work much harder than others. My continuous efforts paid off when I was accepted into a prestigious graduate program, followed by a doctoral study abroad. Step by step, I climbed the ladder of success, moving further and further ahead. My parents lived like rats in a sewer until they finally paid off their debts and started worrying that I wouldn't support them in their old age. I was no longer emotionally affected by them and jokingly said, "My sister is younger, I should let her take care of it." My father, his back bent and face aged, became agitated and said, "That's not your sister. She's just a bastard. You're my only daughter. If you don't take care of me, who will?" Calmly sipping my drink, I replied, "Don't worry. When you're old and frail, I'll throw a few $100 your way each month to ensure you won't starve. The way you treated me in the past is how I will treat you, nothing more. If you want more, ask Bella. Whoever received your hard work should pay you back. Don't expect to be biased when raising children and then demand equality in old age." With that said, it wasn't worth wasting more time on them. I left after dropping those words. after her release, Bella contacted me, wanting to apologize and claiming she had changed. I ignored her message and blocked her. Later, a relative from my hometown sent me a surveillance video showing that after her release, Bella had arranged to meet both me and my parents. She had no intention of reforming, she was out for revenge. I didn't meet her, but my parents did. She pushed them into the road amid busy traffic. My father was struck by a truck and died instantly, meeting a fate similar to his mistress. My mother was dragged under a vehicle. She survived, albeit disfigured, her face twisted into a grotesque shape. Bella was soon arrested again. While my mother lay in the hospital bed, she hoped I would visit her, despite her pleas conveyed through relatives. I refused to go back. Eventually, I got so annoyed that I called her. When I had a fever as a child, didn't you ignore me? She fell silent. I hung up after saying just that, and she didn't bother me through relatives again. Bella contracted HIV and soon after returned to prison, where she quickly deteriorated and died one feverish night. After graduation, I started my own company and moved my grandmother to a warmer city. Lucas and I, from school uniforms to wedding dresses, held a grand wedding at a seaside hotel. My wedding was on my birthday. My future mother-in-law carefully styled my hair into a beautiful princess updo. And my future sister-in-law helped me pick out the most magnificent dress. Lucas gave me a whole candy store. I paused, looking up at him in astonishment, with a slight droop in his phoenix eyes and a gentle curl at the corners. He covered my icy hands with his long, warm ones, a birthday present. From now on, you won't have to envy other kids who have candy to eat. Moved to tears, I hugged him and buried myself in his embrace, suddenly feeling a profound sense of security. I remembered a time long ago when I was boarding a bus in the rain. A boy, too shy to show his concern directly, had his friend hand me a packet of tissues. Taking advantage of the crowd, he secretly slipped a hand warmer into my cold palm. The wedding was exceptionally grand, with numerous guests, but my mother was conspicuously absent. My mom came on her own, stopped by security outside, insistent and proclaiming loudly that she was the bride's mother, wanting to see me. The security guards, put off by her disheveled appearance, shooed her away. I passed by and she called out to me. Eventually, I went to the entrance, not particularly pleased. What are you doing here? My mom's bravado faded, and she fumbled with her hands, stammering, I'm sorry, Susan, I just wanted to see you. Today is such an important day. I didn't want to miss it. Under the gaze of the crowd, she hung her head, embarrassed and fearful of others seeing the scars marring her face. I looked at her quietly and said softly, but you were already absent. My mom froze, then suddenly began to cry, wiping her tears, her voice hoarse with age after having lived through all the pain, sadness, and injustice I had endured. After many years, she finally admitted her mistakes. I was biased before. And I let you suffer too much, Susan, I'm sorry. I looked down at her for a long time, then turned and walked away. The sea breeze was gentle, and the sunlight shone on my pristine white wedding dress. That day, I climbed up to the rooftop and saw an endless wilderness and the sky filled with neon lights, just as majestic. That day, did I really not think about jumping? Actually, I did, subconsciously. I must have, otherwise, I wouldn't have climbed up there. But as I felt the wind and the sun, listened to the rustling of autumn leaves, and heard the distant traffic, I chose not to jump between jumping and not jumping. Since then, I've been determined to improve myself and stay away from toxic people and situations. Don't hurt yourself over someone else's mistakes. If no one loves you, then love yourself a little more. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.